A very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us here on KBC Channel 1. It is the 9th day of November 2023, a day when President William Ruto is expected to address the nation in a joint sitting in Parliament between the National Assembly and the Senate this afternoon to give the State of the Nation address. My name is Betty Kiptum. Now, you ask yourself, what is the State of the Nation address and when did it start in Kenya? Under Article 132 of the Constitution, the President is required to give a status update to the country once every year at a joint sitting of the National Assembly and the Senate. The promulgation of the current Constitution in 2010 gave birth to this annual ritual, with Kenya's third President, Mwai Kibaki, issuing the very first address in 2011. Today's is President William Ruto's inaugural State of the Nation address. The Constitution limits the address to two thematic areas. One is the achievement of the government in helping the country realize her national values. Two, the progress of the country in fulfilling international obligations. And we shall be having quite a conversation on just what has been happening for the past 1 year in Kenya. And it comes at a time when Kenyans are expecting the president to deal, or rather to give suggestions on how to deal with the high cost of living. And to just give you a bit of context on that, we'd like to delve into the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics inflation report for the month of October 2023. And according to this report, inflation was at 6.9% in October 2023. That is down from 9.6% a year ago in October 2022. And all sectors showed price rises. Transport alone increased 13.6% in that year. Housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuels increased 7.8%. Food and non-alcoholic beverages increased 7.8%. Now, let's just give you a bit of more numbers on that. In matters energy, the cost of electricity for the high users for October, let's just get that. For electricity for the high users, that is for 200 kilowatts per hour, in October 2022, the cost was 5,133. And in 2023, it was up 30.3% to 6,686. And for electricity for the low users, that is 50 kilowatts per hour, the cost in 2022 October was 963 shillings and 73 cents, while in 2023 there was a whole 44.1% increase to 1,388,099 cents there. Of course, I shall be giving you those numbers once we've sorted our smart wall. But let me just give you, let me introduce the guests for this particular show this morning, who shall be giving us insights into just what these numbers mean and so much more, and where the country is heading. And on my immediate left is Dr. Isaac Hassan. He is a leadership and governance expert. Welcome, Dr. Sitting next to him is Farhia Jama, who is a tax advocate. Welcome on set. And Leonard Kafafa, a public policy analyst. Welcome, lady and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us for this conversation.
Thank you very much.
Let us just, I would like to have your views on where Kenya is currently, especially what the Kenyan is expecting from President William Ruto this afternoon. Let's start with you, Dr. Hassan.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Expectations of Kenya and where Kenyans are at the moment is diverse. There are Kenyans who are expecting minimal things from the president's speech. There are Kenyans who are very much hopeful, and they are likely to expect a bit of changes in all the mishap of things which are going on at the moment. But there are a number of things that we common people expect. The cost of living. Cost of living is skyrocketing. Corruption has gone fourfolds from the time of devolution. And we expect the president also to look at issues of the current crisis, the El Nino. I know he mentioned sometimes back through advisory committee from meteorological department, who gave him that we will have just some heavy rains. But that wasn't the case. Currently we are having floods crisis everywhere. There are a lot of families which has been displaced in all parts of this country, including Nairobi, people who are living in the slum areas. Therefore, we expect the president to tell us how or what measures he will put in place to address the common issues affecting the common mwananchi in terms of cost of living. We know there is an issue of fuel crisis which is just coming up. We hope that this time around we will be a bit lenient and introduce the subsidy so that Kenyans don't still get the pressure of the cost of living through the increase in fuel prices. Therefore, our expectation is enormous. There are so many, but I think we as we have heard from recently on the news, different media groups or media houses and the newspapers, that the president had a sitting with Kenya Kwanza parliamentarians, and there are this which they leaked out that the president is not willing to reintroduce the subsidy, is not willing to reduce the cost of living through reduction of taxation. Right. So there are a number of things which has leaked out of their discussion, which was off air, but it has come out into the limelight through the media. And therefore, we may expect him to feel that pressures is coming from everywhere. His members of parliament who are his key people who are going to support him or support him in parliament have also raised an issue. Therefore, I think, and again, a lesson on recent visits in Makadara and these other places where wananchis who are talking about cost of living, and they have heckled him, which is not a very good thing for the sitting president. And therefore, we tend to think the president will change his dynamics. He will not going to give us a lot of information in regards to what plans the government has, but we want him to address current issues that are of important or significant to the common wananchi. Thank you.
For here, yourself?
I think most Kenyans right now are just tightening their seatbelts, in that everyone is looking at where is the country heading to. Can I put food on my table? And most Kenyans are lamenting having that my plate is empty. And with this skyrocketing of, commodities that are being consumed by the common mwananchi, it's becoming a problem, in that Kenyans are going to look at the president wondering what is he going to solve in this high cost of living, because the taxes are going higher, fuel is going up, the dollar is also affecting the common mwananchi's consumerism. So what is happening in this state is that with this State of the Nation address, Kenyans are a bit, agitated, disappointed, in that when Kenya Kwanza government was coming in, they had sold a narrative of hustler nation, meaning that you're going to cater for the hustlers. And now the hustlers are going to be affected in that they are unable to provide food on their table. So majorly, they are focusing on how can you empower the purchasing capacity of the citizens. That's what they want to hear. Right. And I hope the president will be able to listen to what the citizens are here to say about that.
Right, let's hope that will be addressed. Leonard, yourself?
Yeah, I agree with my co-panelists that there are things that that wananchi expect the president to address, the cost of living, of course, fuel prices, as has been mentioned, a bit of corruption, as my co-panelists have also mentioned. But there must also be a tempering of expectations with reality, we have to, this is the crunch time for the president. He has now got to get out of the campaign mode of making lofty promises and getting wananchi to understand what the current realities really are. There's a separation between political rhetoric and reality. Political rhetoric was good for the campaign trail, but reality has hit home. So this is crunch time. The president now has to tell Kenyans what is possible and what is not possible, given these very difficult times.
Indeed.
He has also to take into consideration the fact that we are part of a political village. Whatever happens around the globe affects us. So he has to know what he can do, what he can manage to do, even within the global context, and what he can't. And that's the hard message that he has to give to wananchi today.
Right,
Yeah.
of course,
Yeah.
the honeymoon period is over. It's time, to move from political rhetoric to the reality on the ground.
Right.
And now we want to take you to Parliament. Of course, the State of the Nation address will be happening in Parliament in a joint sitting between the Senate and the National Assembly. Our very able team, Sarafina Robi and Abdulaziz Hashim, are on the ground. Team Parliament, take it away.
What will do, Well, good morning to you to Betty Kiptum. We're coming to you live from Parliament buildings. This is the current situation. The preparations are ready for this year's State of the Nation address. You do know, Betty Kiptum, today President William Ruto will be giving a scorecard of what the Kenya Kwanza administration has been able to achieve for the last few days or so. And of course, it was held a meeting there at State House Nairobi where the president met with a host of legislators, over 200 of them, so that they can take stock of what they have achieved so far. And of course, the bone of contention that arose from that particular meeting is about the cost of living and the fuel prices in the country. We're waiting to see how President William Ruto will be navigating those murky waters, especially this afternoon. We do know that what he has been able to achieve so far is the fertilizer distribution to the farmers. That's why we have had a bumper harvest, according to the president, especially with farmers growing maize in various parts of the country. The other part that the president has been able to achieve a little bit is about the affordable housing project. This was, of course, exacerbated by none other than the principal secretary, that is Charles Hinga, who clearly stated that the government has so far collected a revenue of 16 billion and above in terms of the affordable housing project as it continues. You do know that the target is 250,000 a year until he finishes his first term before we head over to the 2027 general election. On the agricultural sector, the president is talking about doing away with the subsidy. He said that we need to do more on production. When you do more about production, especially in this particular country, which is vastly known for its agricultural produce, it will at least alleviate farmers, and of course the cost of living issue will come to a little bit of an end. As much as the matter is currently before the bipartisan committee, you do remember that just the other day it was the Energy Cabinet Secretary, that is Davis Chirchir, as well as the Treasury Cabinet Secretary, Professor Njuguna Ndogo, who clearly stated that we need to leverage on the manufacturing sector, which the government has been trying to revive, especially with the Trade Cabinet Secretary, who was former now and now has headed over to the Ministry of Public Service, that was spearheaded by Moses Kuria. He was at least ensuring that there are various industrial parks across the country. The manufacturing sector also will be boosting up what this initiative the government is taking over, especially when it comes to the affordable housing. You do remember that the Principal Secretary, that is Charles Hinga, was saying that the country imports 69 items into the country, and sadly enough, they include hinges that make the various doors of this particular affordable housing. Now, if they're made in this particular country, the Jua Kali sector will be boosted. And the other particular sector that the president is looking at is boosting the foreign relations with other countries. He, of course, told us that he has had 27 economic partnership agreements with various countries. Just the other day, he was in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia talking to Bin Salman in terms of the IT sector, in terms of agricultural produce in the country, and many other sectors, especially tackling the unemployment crisis. That's why he revealed over 350,000 Kenyans will be sent to Riyadh to ensure that they get employed in those particular countries. Of course, they also talked about the mistreatment of Kenyans when they go there. You do know that Kenyans are hardworking people. This is just a bit of the tip of the iceberg of what the president will be talking about. To also anticipate the president to be talking about the doctrine of separation of powers, how his relationship between the judiciary, the legislature today, and of course the executive, how they're interdependent to each other and respecting, of course, the rule of law. Of course, we've seen the president also charting for the way forward of deploying 1,000 police officers to Haiti. Right now, as we speak, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior, that is Professor Kithure Kindiki, is before the Defense Committee of the National Assembly. He's being grilled on the same matter. We're going to anticipate the president to be making his case before the legislators. You do know that right now the courts have halted the process, but at the end of the day, the decision lies with the parliament, that if parliament approves the 1,000 police officers to be sent to Haiti for the mission keeping in the Haitian nation, that will be the true retrospect. I'm not here alone. We do have Sarafina Robi. We also have John Jacob Kuria. We also have Regina Manyara. Now I want to hand you over to my colleague, that is Sarafina Robi, aweze kutueleza kwa Kiswahili ni nini iliyoandaliwa leo. Sarafina, asante sana kuungana nasi kwa sasa. Tueleze ni nini umeweza kushuhudia hapa bunge tukitarajia Rais William Ruto.
Naam, shukran sana Abdi. Kama alivyokuwa amekujuza mtazamaji na Beti pale studioni, ni kuwa tunatarajia tuweze kupata hotuba ya Rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya ambaye ni Dr. William Ruto. Kama ilivyo katika katiba ya Kenya katika ibara ya 132 ni kuwa rais wa taifa hili anatarajiwa kuweza kuhutubia taifa angalau mara moja kwa mwaka, iliweze kutujuza kama tumeweza kuafikia zile tunu za serikali ambazo zinajulikana kwa kizungu kama national values. Kwa hivyo tunatarajia kwa tuweze kuona kwa rais atakuwa na waeleza wa Kenya ni jinsi gani ambavyo serikali imeweza kuafikia tunu hizi za serikali, na kama tulivyokuwa tumekujuza, Abdi alivyokuwa amekujuza, ni kwa maandalizi hapa yashakamilika katika majengo ya bunge. Ni kuwa tunaweza kuwaona baadhi ya watu ambao wanaweza kulinda usalama, wanajeshi wameweza kufika hapa, na vitengo mbalimbali vya usalama vipo katika eneo hili kuweza kuhakikisha kwa usalama unaweza kuimarishwa, na vile vile shughuli hii nzima inaweza kwenda kama inavyostahili. Wakenya wanatarajia mengi sana kutoka kwa hotuba ya rais, yakiwemo vile vile kuweza kujua, tukiweza kuangalia mambo ambayo serikali imeweza kuafikia kwa kipindi hiki ambacho imeweza kwa serikalini. Ni kwa tumeweza kuona kuwa baadhi tu ya mifumo ya serikali imeweza kupelekwa katika mfumo wa dijitali. Kati ya mifumo tuseme kama 7,000, zaidi ya 6,000 saizi inaweza kufanyika katika mfumo wa kidijitali, na vile vile tunatarajia tuweza kuona ataweza kuangazia mambo ya madeni, maana kwa Kenya wamekuwa kilia kuwa deni la nchi linaendelea kuongezeka. Vile vile tunatarajia iweze kuongea ama kugusia mambo kuhusiana na hali ya uchumi ilivyo nchini kwa sasa, maana Wakenya wengi wanaendelea tukulia kutaka kuona jinsi ambavyo serikali inaweza kuingia na ikaweza ikawasaidia katika kupunguza gharama ya maisha ambayo kwa sasa inaumiza Wakenya wengi. Basi tupo hapa katika majengo ya bunge kuweza kuhakikisha kuwa tunapata kile litakalojiri, na tunakujuza jinsi mambo yatakavyokuwa yakiendelea, na tutakuwa tu tukifuatilia mijadala yote ambayo itakuwa inafanyika hapa, kwani ikitarajiwa kuwa baada tu ya rais kuweza kuhutubia taifa, vile vile atakuwa anawasilisha ripoti ambayo vile vile itaweza kujadiliwa na mabunge yote ya taifa. Basi Beti na kurejesha kwa mwenzangu Abdi, na hapa katika mabunge ya serikali tunaendelea kufuatilia yote yanayojiri.
Asante sana Sarafina Robi. And of course, Betty Kiptum, we are talking about the issue of the universal healthcare coverage. And in just a moment, we'll be speaking to the Health Committee Chair, who is Robert Pokose, the NDPS Member of Parliament. You do know that recently the universal healthcare coverage was launched in Kericho during the Mashujaa Day celebrations. And of course, that is something that the President has been working towards, especially with the Cabinet Secretary of Health, that is Susan Nakhumicha. And of course, we'll be seeing, of course, coming to the end of the National Health Insurance Fund and the introduction of the Social Health Insurance Fund as well. Those are the issues that the President will be tackling. You do know that economic experts in the country are arguing that 22 million Kenyans are below the poverty line, and of course the President needs to address this particular matter. That is just a tip of the iceberg of what we have in store for you from the parliamentary team, and of course we'll be coming back to you any moment from this now. As long as we have these legislators, we're still waiting for them. They're still streaming in. Once they do, we'll be coming back to you. Now back to you, Betty Kiptum.
Thank you very much, the team from Parliament, of course, Abdiaziz Hashim there and Sarafina Robi, just giving us the latest on the preparations that are going on in Parliament ahead of the State of the Nation address, and they shall be keeping tabs on that until the time when President Dr. William Ruto will be addressing Parliament. Now, we want to just take a look at the numbers on matters, the cost of living, as I had told you earlier, in the October 2023 KNBS report on matters inflation. Inflation was at 6.9%. Compared to last year, October, that was at 9.6%. But all sectors saw price rises. Transport at 13.6% rise. Housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuel rose 7.8%, as well as food and non-alcoholic beverages rose 7.8% year on year. Now, on matters electricity, for the high users, that is 200 kilowatts per hour, the units were going at 5,133 in October 2022, a 30.3% rise there to 6,686 shillings in October 2023. For the low users, 963.73 shillings, up 44.1% to 1,388.99. That is for energy. On matters fuel, of course, fuel is a very big factor when it comes to production cost. Those particular costs are often passed down to the consumers who buy products that are costing higher because of this rise. Look at petrol. Petrol in October 2022 was at 179 shillings and 6 cents per litre. In October 2023, a year later, there is a 21.7% increase to 217 shillings and 97 cents. For diesel, it was at 163 shillings and 92 cents per litre. In October 2023, we are talking 206 shillings and 21 cents per litre. That is 25.8% rise. Now, kerosene is quite interesting because kerosene is used by most low-income earners. Most households in Kenya use kerosene, and you see a 39.2% rise from 147 shillings and 87 cents to 205 shillings and 79 cents, definitely impacting the pockets of low-income earners in Kenya. On matters food, according to that KNBS report, we see that the cost of food is rising. Potatoes rose 22.9% in a year from 90 shillings and 78 cents. That is 1 kg of potatoes cost 90 shillings and 78 cents last year in October. This year it's at 111 shillings and 59 cents. For tomatoes used in virtually every household in Kenya, there is 69 shillings and 80 cents, that is in October 2022, up 16.7% to 81 shillings and 46 cents last month. Oranges at 73 shillings and 46 cents in October 2022 rose to 81 shillings and 75 cents in October 2023, that is 11.3%. And for carrots, we are talking 71 shillings and 89 cents, that is last year, October. This year, October, it's at 85 shillings and 58 cents, representing a 19% increase. According to that report, the only products that came down were wheat flour and maize flour, both sifted and the other type that is packaged and sold in our retail stores. Just the wheat flour and the maize flour are the ones that came in, and their margins were about 2.5% decrease. So that means overall, since February 2019, when the base rate of the consumer price index was at 100%, there has been a 36.71% increase on prices of goods. This, of course, portends a very difficult situation for the common mwananchi, who has had to use whatever little that they have to cover for this increase. And this conversation that we are having is just to make sense of those numbers and see exactly where the common mwananchi is and what they are expecting from President William Ruto, even as the Treasury and Energy Ministry say that the cost of fuel could go all the way to 300 shillings. I mean, what are Kenyans to do? This conversation is with Dr. Isaac Hassan, a leadership and governance expert, as well as Farhia Jama, a tax advocate, and Leonard Kafafa, a public policy analyst. I'll start with you, Leonard. You have seen the numbers. Yes. What do you have to say about them?
The numbers don't look good, certainly. Mwananchi would definitely feel the pinch in their pockets right now, going by the numbers. But you have to know where the numbers are coming from. For every cause, there's an effect. And we know that these numbers are stemming from a bad financial and economic environment. Let me take you back a little. The Kenya Kwanza government came in on the backbone of lofty promises, promising to change the livelihoods of Mwananchi, to lower the cost of living down. But what they had not reckoned with was the deplorable state of the economy. They had not reckoned with that. That's nothing that they had factored in. Truth of the matter is, for the last 10 or so years, the country has been very badly managed. The previous administration engaged in profligate borrowing and spending on projects that did not actually translate to gains for Mwananchi on the ground. So that's the reality that we have to contend with, that we have a bad economy. We've had profligate spending, on borrowing rather, and spending on things that do not translate to benefits to Mwananchi, on things that do not build the economy, that the microeconomy is not empowered by the kind of borrowing and spending that was done over the 10 years. So this is not coming as a surprise. These numbers are coming from somewhere. There's a background to them. The only thing is that the government was not aware, or rather it did not take into account how deplorable the economy was when it came up with the lofty promises that it made. So that's where we are coming from at the moment. Yeah, there's a background to it. It's going to be difficult. In fact, I dare say it's going to be very difficult for the next couple of years. And the focus then ought to be on stabilizing the economy so that the country does not get into debt distress. So that ought to be the focus. Okay. So I would tell Mwananchi that for the next couple of years, it's going to be probably tougher than it is at the moment.
Tougher than it is at the moment.
Yes.
For here, from a tax perspective, what has the government done so far to get us where we are?
From a tax perspective, I know Kenyans do not want to hear the word tax because Kenya has recorded the highest cost of living immediately after 2017. This year is going to be another year of recording a high cost of living. And this, as my colleague is mentioning, is coming from ripple effects from the aspect of COVID to the aspect of the economy going down. And having all these issues coming at once is a burden to the Kenyan citizen. But then again, is there a way we can solve the problem without taxing too much to enable the ecosystem to grow? So if you have noted that investors are actually even running away from the country, they're moving to other neighboring countries. And in the Nairobi Stock Exchange, it's recorded the highest number of investors pulling out their investments. Most of the time, the government raises revenue in different ways, either through taxes, through foreign direct investments, which enable investors to come and invest into the country to ensure that there is cash flow coming into the country. But here we are there's a global crisis, but then as a country, we were already having a dilapidated economy. If we can look at the statistics you've just given us, wheat has just gone down, but we have been an importer of wheat for the last, decade. And it's even sad that as a country we have arable land, we have everything, we have the agricultural space should be growing, but with this kind of production being affected, even the latest news was that Unilever, which is a company that has been there for years, has never thought about moving its production to another country. Kenya has been one of the main production for Unilever. So what does that tell you? The businesses are collapsing, and we are having, as a tax advocate, we've been auctioning so many companies. So just January and November, we've auctioned over 1,000 plus businesses. So it tells you the state of how the business is. There's no good business environment. There's no good investor environment to allow investments to come in, to allow production to happen and the businesses to thrive. So that will lead to more unemployment issues. It will lead to a lot of problems happening in the business sector. And that's where now we are coming in. Do we increase taxes or do we retain the tax base that was there? Because the Finance Act was introduced to increase the tax bases, and tax bases being increased meaning that the Kenyans are going to be taxed more even in the current economic status. So we're having a problem. I hope the President is able to listen to this conversation and allow Kenyans to breathe. That's what we need to hear.
Right.
Yeah.
Kenyans need to breathe. Of course, when you talk about the business environment, the Stanbic Purchasing Managers Index showed that job cuts were at COVID levels. That is very worrying. And from a governance perspective, is taxation really the answer? Please, Dr. Ezra.
I think it is in record that there is no country which has prospered by overtaxing its citizen. Taxation is not one, unfortunately, is not one way of creating development within a country. We took samples of or examples when we are introducing the taxation and the economy of Singapore and Malaysia. They never taxed their citizens. What they did was that they reduced the taxation and increased productivity in terms of attracting more producers. These are companies that come into the country and do their productions within the country. That way you are able to go very far in terms of developing the nation and creating employment. Tax has never taken lead in terms of creating environment for countries' prosperity. Having said that, I think, as my colleagues have mentioned, where we went wrong is we went into a situation where we have not given a second thought. We rushed into whatever the government did, from the Taxation Act or Financial Act basically, to all other measures that they have put in place in order to beef up the economy. All those didn't work out. For example, let me give you a simple example. If we reduce the cost of wheat flour, for example, that's or unga, that is staple food for a Kenyan family. You need salt, you need the tomatoes you have seen on all those other products, you need kerosene or fuel, you need transportation of that product to where you are, and all those contributes to overall that specific meal that you are eating. So if we value the meal of an individual and the cost that is involved, then we know very well one component of that meal, reducing the cost, will not be a solution to all, or will not be a solution to reducing or increasing, reducing the cost of living. So tax has never played a single role. Secondly, from the political perspective, Kenyans will not want to reason logically and research on whatever they want to pass. For example, parliamentarians, they just do fancy things and pass laws because they are responding to their masters. For example, if certain law comes in, then it is like we must have clear pathway in which that law has been analyzed. If this law has not been analyzed and the right thing has, technocrats have not looked at it, parliamentarians, unfortunately, are not technocrats. They are supposed to have a technocrat who look at everything and look at it from the perspective of now, tomorrow, and the future generation. If we always look at things at very short feelings, then the end result is that we are not able to reverse the damages that we go in. Similar situation is happening to us. It was not logical for the country which has been mismanaged, as my colleague put it, in the previous government, where we know the government had a lot of appetite for borrowing. And now we know we are supposed to repay back those loans we have taken, but instead of finding out modalities in which we will reduce those loans so that we are able to consume our own money, we are paying all our exchequer's money with debts. Last time the Minister for Finance said 80% of the money goes to the paying debts. That means 20% is not even sufficient enough to run the government. If that is the case, then what options did we had? We will have had a plan to see if we are able to cut costs on all our unnecessary expenditures, including development, and try to focus on how we repay those debts so that we salvage ourselves from the current crisis.
Right.
That has not come out at any one time, and we have a lot of project or developmental agendas that is being pushed by the government in every location, and that translates to, again, further debts. And recently in the analysis they made, you remember very well, there were cases of Kenyans or the government just collecting debts, and the debts cannot be accounted for. That came from the auditor, not the auditor, the financial controller, when she was sitting with parliamentarians. And that's a crisis. We have money which is going out. We Kenyans are the ones to pay that money for, to pay eventually, pay for that money, but we actually can't link that money to any development or tangible thing that we know. Okay. Thirdly, which I wanted to finalize with as you give it to my other colleagues, is that we have expenditure. We have a lot of mood for political rallies. We have never come out of politics. We are always in politics. The government is still politicking. Why? We have a lot of events in this country which translates to cost. I know when the president goes to visit certain places, it's important for him to visit. But how often shall we do that? And in terms of someone who is already saying that we are below, in terms of our economy is below the normal rate, and on the other hand, we are having fancy functions all over the country, and then that translates to still taxpayers paying for it. So it means that we are on one side saying we don't have money. On the other side, we are utilizing a lot of resources, and we don't know where that money is coming from in terms of the source of that money. But again, is it debts that we are using? Then if we are using debts, then we are not very far away from becoming Greece. You remember Greece was under receivership just because they couldn't pay back their debts. And when the government cannot pay back their debts, we as Kenyans cannot pay also our debt, because majority of us are on mortgages, on loans that we have taken to build our homes, and that way we will be in crisis, and the country will be under receivership of those governments that have loaned us their money, because this will become their property indirectly.
Okay, thank you very much for your thoughts. I see Leonard, and I know you have some thoughts on that. I'll give you some time to react to that. Just allow me. Yeah, I'm informed that we can continue the conversation. Yes, okay. Leonard, let's get your thoughts on what Dr. Hassan has said.
I'm just circling back to what Hassan and my colleague here have said. One, the Finance Act is not intended to be permanent. It's reviewed every year, and it's applied to situations as they arise, you know. It is applied according to the expediency of the time. If there are tough times, the Finance Act is strict to reflect the same. When there are good times, the Finance Act is similarly adjusted to reflect the same. Then I'll just perhaps correct my colleague, the governance expert, when he says that the Finance Act was a process of parliamentarians alone. There's a whole process that goes into developing the Finance Act. There's the budget policy statement, which is the product of technocrats from all over, from within the government themselves, and from within the government itself, and from corporate experts and others. So they come up with a budget policy statement, which is then subjected to public participation at some point, which is then sent to Parliament as a bill. It's a finance bill, which is debated before it eventually becomes a Finance Act. The Finance Act after it gets the assent of the President. So it's not quite accurate to say that it's just a product of parliamentarians alone who have no expertise when developing that act. It has been passed through the hands of technocrats who have come up with something. Why did we come up with this punitive, quote-unquote, Punitive Finance Act 2023? It's because of the expediency of the time. What is that expediency? The expediency is we are in a threat of debt default. We're just on the cusp of debt default. So this Finance Act 2023, in my view, is an emergency measure. It is intended to forestall debt default. It is intended to stop us from getting to debt default. My colleague has just said that we could go belly up the way of Greece, which would be terrible for this country, which would introduce worse suffering for Wananchi in this country if we went the way of Greece. So we'd much rather take up this act, tighten our belts a little bit, do what it needs to take so that we can forestall that debt default. My colleague has given us very good numbers. He's told us that according to, I think, statistics, so far 70 to 80% of our tax revenues are going towards debt. That's a bad situation to be in. Yeah, when you have 70 to 80% of your tax revenues going towards debt, it means you're crowding out development expenditure. It means you hardly have anything left for recurrent expenditure. Yet, so far, we've managed to meet recurrent expenditure. Development expenditure, I think, is less than the 30% of the budget that it is supposed to be. It is not. And when we crowd out development expenditure, again, it affects Wananchi, because the development has a way of trickling resources down to Wananchi. If you have no development, it cannot get to Wananchi. But this is an emergency. We have to fix the economy. We have to meet our external obligations, our loans. Article 132 of the Constitution that mandates the President to give a State of the Nation address actually talks of two core things, of course, national values and the fulfillment of international obligations. But by paying our debt, we are fulfilling our international obligations. We cannot run away from that. And that's what the Finance Act 2023 is all about. Forestalling us from debt default by enabling us to meet our international obligations. Yeah.
Right. Farhia, I would like to, it seems Kenya is in a catch-22 situation, yeah? We are damned if we do and damned if we don't. How do we get out of this rat hole we are in?
Yeah, with the catch-22 situation, and I like what my colleague has just mentioned, is that the government is in a fix, yeah? It needs to pay its debts. It needs to meet its citizens' requirements and needs. But then again, are we looking at the current 1 year of this current government? As much as 80% has been going to paying the debts, have they reduced their public expenditure? We are aware that some of the government staff have not been paid as well. And I think that's also a big problem. If government that works for us has not also been paid, it means that they will have to pick money from each and every corner to ensure that they satisfy their needs. So we have the problem of this situation going to be taking longer than we planned for. But then again, what are the current solutions available for us? If we are to look at the Finance Act, it's an emergency situation, but we need to also see what are the other ways we can promote or inject money into the country. because taxes is just not the only way government can raise money. Can the government support or find ways in which they can promote either investments coming to the country? And as my colleague has mentioned, look at the countries that have gone through crisis before. We're not the first one that has been into crisis like this. On inflation, the world is also having the same issues, but how are other countries doing that? Most of the countries that are, in such crises do not increase taxes. The taxes need to be moderated, in that we are able to attract investments from the international space into the country. If we increase our tax base, we're not enabling the business environment to grow and to allow injection or foreign direct investments coming into the country. So if we can, look for ways in which we can attract foreign direct investments, enable the businesses that can bring an ecosystem for investment, then now we will be able to solve the problem. And then second, we need to ensure that the fuel and energy are the most important aspect. So if electricity is already going higher and higher, plus the petrol is going higher, then now we will never be able to control the food pricing index going higher. So if we can try and see how the energy sector and the energy sector being reduced, then now we will be able to see the food prices being controlled. So the problem we're having, and many Kenyans are trying to understand, how can our neighboring country, Tanzania, be reducing their fuel prices, and we are increasing our fuel prices. Just the other day, monetary policy on CBK was, introduced, or it was gazetted on the newsletter, and there was a comment that people had circulated even on Twitter. Why is our neighboring country reducing their fuel prices because of the world or the global fuel going down, and as a country, Kenya, our prices are going higher? So we need to control these two elements so that at least we can have a controlled situation than, losing, our country to the dogs.
Right. I mean, just before you comment on that, I'd like to just add on to what she said, give some statistics. According to an EPRA report, a regional comparison of prices, for Kenya, the taxes and levies we all know is the majority of what we pay in our fuel. In Kenya, super petrol, the taxes are 80 shillings and 37 cents. Compared to our neighbors, Tanzania, they pay 56 shillings and 61 cents. Even Uganda is at 58 shillings 33 cents, and the lowest in our region is Rwanda, 42 shillings and 30 cents. That is on taxation. For something like kerosene, Kenya, we pay 63 shillings and 53 cents taxes on kerosene. Tanzania pays 46 shillings and 7 cents. And also the parliamentarians who met with President Ruto, saying that, he needs to do something about this. Yet they are the ones who passed the Finance Act. I mean, the finance bill into an act. I mean, there's a paradox there. What is happening? Kenyans are really struggling to understand this double speak that is going on.
I think what is happening is that Kenyans are never sincere with each other. That's a fact. But I want to build on our expert on regards to the issues of technocrat in the financial bill. I think we were speaking from a different perspective. The technocrats who have developed that tool are the executive. They aren't representative of the common mwananchi. And when they do that, they will do it based on what the government will intend to do. And when it comes to parliament, this is the time when parliamentarians must use a more robust technical team who look at the implication of that tax factor that has been introduced, or the act itself, so that they weigh between the two, whether it will going to affect the common mwananchi, or whether it will benefit the the government.
Dr. Sorry, just hold your thought there. Allow me to interrupt you just a little bit. I'm informed that we are supposed to go to Parliament. Abdiaziz Hashim is on standby to give us the views of Kenyans on these matters of State of the Nation address. Abdiaziz?
Well, Kiptum, we are coming to you live from Parliament buildings once more. Of course, we are talking about the state of the nation, various key sectors that the president is looking at and what they have been able to achieve. You do know that Parliament plays a very critical role in oversighting the national government. That's why joining me right now is Mheshimiwa Timothy to just tell us, given that they were with the president at State House Nairobi, what are the issues as the legislators they raised with the president. Mheshimiwa, let's start off with the cost of living issue. You are with the president. What pointers did you give to the president so that when he comes here, he'll come with solutions?
Now, we admit that we've had challenges as a government for the last 1 year since our office. But we also understand that some of the issues that we've had in this government are issues that were inherited. We had a government that was almost collapsing. We had a problem with the handshake regime that was led by Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. But I know that we have challenges as a government. But when we were in State House, the president assured us and reassured us that as a country, we are in the right direction. And he was very clear. He said, we may be unpopular in the first 2 years of this government, but the changes he is making is going to the foundation of economic prosperity of this country. Remember, even when Kibaki came in, he came in when he inherited a lot of challenges that was occasioned by the Kanu regime. But when Kibaki took over, he was unpopular for the first 2 years. But he made certain radical changes that ensured that the country was in the right trajectory. And the economic model that was initiated by this government, of course, it was bottom up. But it didn't mean that we would now, the change was instant. Because one, look at the issue of agriculture. There was the issue of this country was used to what called the consumption subsidy, where there was a subsidized consumption of products were subsidized. But the president came up with something called production subsidy. One, reducing the cost of fertilizer. And he said at the end of it all, even if we reduce the cost of food products through subsidies, at the end of it all, we will not achieve as a country. But he said, let us look at the issue of production subsidy. Let us reduce the cost of fertilizer so that at the end of it all, we harvest, because last year we harvested around 44 million bags of maize. Yes. But this time round, we are projecting 65 to 70 million bags of maize, meaning that the cost of food prices will come down because of increased productivity in our farms. And that is one of the key issues that we discussed in State House. Yes. But most importantly, it was a reassurance. And even today's speech by the president, it will be reassuring the nation that at some point, it may not be easy, that Rome was not built in a day. But what we are now doing is we are assembling the materials for building Rome. And I'm sure that in the next 3, 4 years, 5 years, this economy will be headed in the right direction and will be headed to economic prosperity. Yeah.
But Mheshimiwa, you also raised the issue of the fuel prices, which has been hiking, and you even heard what Davis Churchill, the Energy and Petroleum Cabinet Secretary, alluded to before the bipartisan committee. The issue of fuel, Kenyans are watching you right now. Yeah. It is the parliament that passed the Finance Act that raised the VAT 8 to 16%. Maybe as parliamentarians, are you considering to even lower it down so as to address the issue of the cost of fuel?
I agree, my brother, that the economy is hurting. Yes. That fuel prices determines almost all facets of our economy. And when fuel prices are high, then it will affect almost all areas of production. And it is an issue that we discuss. And we are very candid with the president. We told the president, yes, we are members of parliament. We support you in parliament. But Kenyans are not happy with the high cost of fuel. And we agreed that, you see, the president was very candid. He said, you see, members, the issue of fuel prices is not a Kenyan issue. It is an international issue. The war in Ukraine and Russia has affected the cost of international international fuel, and that is why there is the impact has come down to Kenya, and we agree that we will sit down. We shall review the Finance Act in the next financial year, and we see whether we can be able to look at if the reduction in tax, VAT tax on fuel, then we should look at it as Parliament with an intention of lowering the cost of fuel, because we cannot afford as it is, and Kenyans are hurting. And we agree that we must take deliberate measures so that we can be able to reduce the cost of fuel. Yes.
And Mheshimiwa, given that finally we know that the supplementary budget is here with the members of Parliament, I know you have picked into that particular supplementary budget. Are there alleviations there for Kenyans who are watching you right now? You can tell them.
We are still discussing the issue of supplementary budget, and we are looking at a way of trying to lower the cost of living. But we were very categorical that we will not introduce subsidy, because remember we are currently repaying a lot of we are repaying 67 billion shillings that was occasioned out of the subsidy. So as a country, we shall look for a way that we shall be able to revise our supplementary budget so that we cut down on certain expenditures. Remember, even for the issue of foreign travel, the president said we cut it by almost to 30% or 20%, so that money can be used to inject into the economy for some economic prosperity. So as Parliament, we shall be critical in the supplementary budget to make sure that some of the issues that are input there are meant to alleviate the suffering of Kenyans insofar as the cost of living is concerned. Yes.
And Mheshimiwa, kindly don't leave. We want to converse with you more. That is just a tip of the iceberg of what the legislators will be talking about. Especially this is Mheshimiwa Timothy is talking about the agriculture sector and how we need to reintroduce the manufacturing sector. We do know that it was currently at 9% and it has been lowered all the way to 7%, and it's something that this administration has been tapping into. Of course, you heard from the president clearly stating a while ago that we need to stop even the importation of maize, that 2024 will be the last time Kenya will be importing maize into the country, and by 2025 Kenya will be producing those particular maize from our farmers so that it can be beneficial to the agricultural sector and of course in terms of food security. We're currently talking to a host of legislators. Once we do get a hold of them, we'll be coming to you. Lining up next will be KSS Member of Parliament, who will be just speaking to in just a moment. But for now, I need to hand you over to Betty Kiptum to carry on with the conversation.
Thank you very much, Abdiaziz Hashim. They are coming to us from Parliament buildings. And of course, ahead of the State of the Nation address, the President is in Meru to just look at, inspect some affordable housing project. We just have live pictures from Meru there. We are going to give you live pictures from Meru on matters affordable housing. President William Ruto is undertaking an inspection of the Meru affordable housing project. Those are live pictures from Meru. That is the project under the Affordable Housing Program. Of course, a program that the government looks to ensure that houses are built 1 million every year for the next 5 years. We shall see. We shall, of course, be giving you updates on what That is President William Ruto inspecting the affordable housing project in Meru ahead, of course, before he heads to Parliament later this afternoon to address the nation on the State of the Nation address, to give the State of the Nation address. Now in studio we have been talking about just where Kenya is on matters State of the Nation, the cost of living top of the mind of many Kenyans, and I would like to get just comments from Farhia Jama, who is about to leave us during this conversation. We'd like to get your closing remarks, Farhia, then we can proceed.
So my closing remarks will be like, one, as much as we are in a tight situation and the government is really trying its best to not default on their debts, we need to also ensure that we're not killing the common mwananchi's needs. If putting a food on the table, the purchasing power is taken away from the Kenyan, it will mean that we are denying the Kenyans their rights, their Chapter 4 of the Constitution, the Kenyans have a right. And if we're looking at the national values in today's discussion, we want to know how accountable is our government in updating us on how are they using the money. The expenditure that we were having a discussion is that the government is looking at ways in which it can raise revenue, but it's never talking about the elephant in the room of how do we reduce our expenditure as a government. Because part of the scenario that we are in is just like an example of you being at home. If you do not have enough money, what do? You first cut down on the costs that are not necessary. So let's first think about ways in which the government can reduce the costs or this expenditure. And you can see so many Kenyans have been commenting on the travels, on the budget that the government is still spending, yet we already know that we are in this kind of scenario. Then also we need to talk about the corruption. Where is our money going to? So if you're saying that we are unable to pay our debts and we're looking for ways to pay our debts, you need to also tell us how are you using the money. So over the years, the Finance Act has been introduced each and every year, but this year is the only year that Finance Act has really been a conversation. The public participation. Are our parliamentarians even financially literate to make decisions for us? Do they need to be educated about financial policies? How to, improve on these policies? As my colleague mentioned, technocrats were involved. But how simplified was this done in the public participation? In a common mwananchi space, were they able to understand what it means when they were, being told about housing levy, these new taxes? They were just bombarded with too much financial information, which is a technical information. Can we simplify this information to a common mwananchi so that they know, or the parliamentarians know when they're passing a certain act, that they are aware of what they're passing into? And you see, we're not only thinking about short term. Okay, once we're done with paying the debts, after that, do we have an economy that is thriving? So my remarks will be, let's look at policy, physical policy from a long-term perspective. Let's not kill the cash cow. Let's not kill the citizen who's bringing you revenue in the name of just taxing them to death.
Taxing them to death. Thank you very much for your thoughts, Farhia. That is Farhia Jama. She is a tax advocate, and we are having this conversation, of course, with Dr. Isaac Hassan as well, who is a leadership and governance expert, and Leonard Kafafa, public policy analyst, who will also be giving us their thoughts after this short break. Do stay with us. The State of the Nation coverage continues.
You do something like that? Come on, that cat is my pet. You threw my cat out.
I never expected my mom to say that to us. I also thought she was being unfair. My mom doesn't get to dictate if or when I marry you. You know that.
Have you forgotten where we are right now? You can't hold my hand.
I'm not allowed to hold my girlfriend's hand?
Hey,
I'm going up the escalator now.
I suggest you go see a doctor and leave me alone.
I'm insane because I miss you too much. Chuyan, I was wrong.
What? What about the pain in my heart? What will take that away?
Forgiveness.
Mimi nakwambia for the next week utakuwa millionaire.
I'm not the naive type anymore.
Mimi sina mudi ya wageni. Unaona hiyo mudu uko nayo? Hiyo inaitwa morning sickness. Nishazoea kuhangaika hivi tu asubuhi.
Jen, tulikuwa tumepanga na yeye Next week pia tunaweza enda tuone wazazi wangu.
Alex, we in a relationship. Na nikauchukuliangi serious.
Jane, huyu baba ya mtoto wako, kwani deadbeat?
Please, enda.
Nilikuwa nafikiria nitafute job. Mimi sitaki kuendelea kukaa idle.
Unafikiri Peter anataka Christine mwingine kwa hii nyumba?
Si wewe ndio uliharibu boma ya kakako.
Mimi sitaki kusikiza tena, nimechoka.
I made you, don't forget that. Usisahau.
Ayaya.
Thank you for watching KBC Channel 1. This is a special coverage on the State of the Nation address that is set to take place this afternoon in Parliament, a joint sitting between Senate and the National Assembly that President Dr. William Ruto will be addressing. And we are delving into just the issues that Kenyans expect the President to address this afternoon. Top of their mind is cost of living. Having this conversation is Dr. Isaac Hassan, a leadership and governance expert, as well as Leonard Kafafa, who is a public policy analyst. Now, Daktari, you were giving us your thoughts on just the paradox that is, within government. There's spending on this side and saying that, we don't have enough money. How do we find a balance?
Yeah, I think that is the situation. It is visible. It's something that we see every other time. When certain crises occur, people come up with what is called measures that can at least contain the situation. And we always say desperate times calls for desperate measures. And having said that, I think what is very crucial for the government is that the reality has catch up with us. We were just hiding our head high above the sand. Now it is going in. Before we go into crisis, I think it is good for us to completely reduce our expenditures to a minimum level where we know we only respond to essential services. That way, we are able to propel our economy. I know it will take a while, but it will always pick up. We know we have a productivity concept of reducing the high cost of living. Yes, we totally agree. But now you have seen this crisis which has again emerged, which is farmers who have made their produces have nowhere to dry their maize. They have no proper storage. Government imported maize but did not buy from the Kenyans who have made all the effort in the food basket area to produce maize, because their price was a bit high, and so they were given the freedom of either buying. The minister was saying you can either sell at this cost or you sell it to anyone else who can give you a higher cost. That way means then when you open the market, means you are not considerate in terms of Kenyans who expected the government to give them a priority, because you are buying other products which is similar in the one which is in the country. But there are a lot of other costs that are underneath which is hidden. Sometimes even those products are not consumable within the country. So there are a number of things that the government has put in place in terms of measures to reduce the cost of living. But it's not working out. So it is time, I think, for the government to rethink. The president comes out very clearly and tell Kenyans that we are in this situation. We actually don't know which situation we are in. These are verbal communication we always get, where a minister will say something else, a director in one of the institutions says a different thing. Having said that, I think the best thing for us at the moment, as we wait for His Excellency Dr. William Ruto's today's speech, when he is talking to the joint parliamentarians, we expect him to at least concentrate on the new measures that will going to salvage us out of the current crisis. That is the only thing that we are expecting, and we are hopeful to hear from his side for today.
Okay. Right, Kafafa, I'll be getting to you in a second. I want to take the viewer to Parliament Buildings where our very own John Jacob Curia is standing by to just give us what the parliamentarians are talking about and what they expect. John Jacob Curia, take it away.
Thank you, Betty Kiptum. Live from Parliament Buildings. The State of a Nation by President William Ruto is scheduled for today, and there are a raft of things that Kenyans really have expressed themselves in terms of what they would want to hear from the president, ranging from the high cost of living and other issues. But probably even before we delve into some of these things, let's just get the perspectives of members of Parliament as regards what they want or they would want to hear from the president, and have grabbed one from the government side, the other from the opposition. So we're going to get, what you would call differences in terms of opinion. So let me just move to this other side so that I bring in Mheshimiwa Mara Kitayama from Kuria East. Mheshimiwa, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah.
What are your expectations today when the president does the annual State of a Nation?
The biggest expectation for me is for the president to speak candidly to the nation and speak truth to nation. Just as we all expect to speak truth to power, power needs to speak truth to its citizenry. I would be very happy today if the president was to be extremely candid on the state of this nation. Previous governments have, flossed over or deliberately lied to its citizenry so that they look good. Mm-hmm. I want to believe that so far this particular president, President William Ruto, has displayed some candidness that sometimes may not go down well with Kenyans, because Kenyans are used to being lied to. My expectation today is that he's going to tell us the real situation of the economy, the reasons behind the high cost of living, because indeed everybody accepts that the cost of living is high. Yeah. Fuel prices have gone high, not only in Kenya, internationally. And I would be expecting to hear his measures towards making it better. Mm-hmm. There are those that are even saying, why not just make it expensive and then start bringing it down? That would be deceptive. Mm-hmm. We will let market forces speak. We will also let the president speak, because we elected him to do that presidents do, speak to the nation. And that is what I'm expecting today. It would be also good for him to give hope to the country, that even as truth is what it is, what is it that he's doing and what his administration is doing, or rather our administration, because I'm a member of Kenya Kwanza side of government, and it will be important that we speak to the people candidly. We tell them, yes, it is going to hurt, but it is going to hurt for how long? If we do know, we will say. We expect him to say. If we do not know, we'll just expect the president to tell us that he doesn't exactly know when, but he has a plan. And that plan is towards making cost of living better and manageable. I also want to bring to the attention of the country that every single day, unfortunately, government finds itself bumping into loans that are due or they're coming due. How I wish that Treasury and other arms of government would have spelled this out earlier, so that even as an incoming president comes in, they're able to deal with things together holistically. Because when suddenly today you realize you have a debt that is due and it must be paid, and then you start having to juggle around, what do you do with this, what do you do with this? I think truth in government, truth in leadership, and generally making it work for everyone.
Mheshimiwa, you get an opportunity to discuss and debate the reports that the president will table in the House. But even as you talk about measures being taken by government, the fact that if as late as yesterday we had the Ministry of Interior announcing a raft of measures that will see an increase even in getting primary documents in this country, would you say then that this administration is being careful in terms of how it's handling an already struggling citizen?
The problem with progress is that it has to be painful. That is the whole thing around progress. All countries have their own legislative regimes, they have their own administrative regimes, and every country does it differently. I know for a fact that there are countries that those that are looking for visas, for example, to go to other countries, even those that win green card, it's not that cheap. You still have to pay. You pay. And if that is what it is going to cost us to do that, the better. And if that is also going to stop corruption, because let's be honest, when you don't charge openly and rates that are known, then people in government are going to make a kill. We remember there was a minister not long ago who was accused of taking bribes to get foreigners citizenship and work permits in this country. So it is better, I would rather a government that tells us, pay this much money we know, so that you come up front, rather than a government that goes quiet, charges meager, and then at the end of it all, people make a kill out of it.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's hear from the opposition, but don't go too far. Let's bring in Mheshimiwa Adao to tell us what are your expectations as regards the State of the Nation address today by His Excellency the President?
My first and foremost expectation from His Excellency the President is clarity. Where are we at? Where are we headed? How much pain are we going to go through before we appear on the other side safe and sound, hopefully? Clarity is what you need in times of crisis. Proper communication to the Kenyan masses that this is where we are at, and we're going from here and we're going to that other end, or to point B or point C or point D. We want to know. And I would also be really excited if the President handles the issue of fuel, because the myriad challenges Kenyans are going through given the high cost of fuel. And also the the knockoff impacts in terms of production and all kinds of things. I would also want to see what he would say about the ongoing floods in various parts of the country. We had said it was El Nino, and then we said, no, it's not El Nino. And now we are seeing entire regions getting covered up by water, roads completely inundated with the floods, people moving away from their homes. I would, and my constituency is one of the most affected by the floods. I was there yesterday going around seeing the deplorable situation my constituents are living in. And so far we have not heard from either the President or his deputy when it comes to the issue of the ongoing floods. And I would really very much want to hear what the President has to say and whether he thinks it's time to declare it a national emergency. The other issue is corruption. And that is the elephant in the room when we come to Kenya. There's been attempts to try and raise taxes, but we know there's been a lot of pilfering with state resources. We know there's been a lot of wastage. And yes, Kenyans must pay more tax because they are the first sovereign of this country. And any impact coming onto the economy must be felt first and foremost by Kenyans. And any attempt to try and resuscitate it has to come from the Kenyan people. And that's why I'm not averse to people paying,
this administration
more taxes. But any attempt to tax Kenyans more must be accompanied by clear efforts to try and curb the wanton corruption that we have in our country.
This administration claims it inherited this mess from the previous administration. Your take?
Yes, that's quite plausible, yes. But then the onus of fixing it falls on whoever is in government. And government is in perpetuity. So, yes, some of the things that happened come from the other government. I'm not going to deny that.
Yeah.
But again, together, we give our president the responsibility to lead this country. He's been there for 1 year and 2 months now, or so. We have to give them time. Some of these problems did not just turn over overnight, did not come to us overnight. They were many years in the making, and it will take many years to crawl out of some of them. That's why we have as patriotic Kenyans, to give our president the chance to address. And in giving them the chance and his government, we have to also support. What we need is a responsible opposition that corrects rather than criticizes. And that's what we are trying to do. As far as I'm concerned, correct the government, but give the president and his government a chance to fix a mess that took a long time to get to where it is. So as patriotic Kenyans, we are supposed to do that. But again, there are immediate issues that need to be dealt with. The high cost of living, the price of fuel. And I will very much like to see the president address those. And I'm sure he is going to address them.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa Ado, speaking to us. Largely the focus will be on the high cost of fuel, the high cost of living that Kenyans continue to experience. Karibu. Yeah. Karibu. Okay, go ahead. The State of the Nation address, what do you expect the president to speak about today?
I expect the president to speak about what he's doing for Kenya, especially the reason there was a recent flood. In fact, he said there's no El Nino publicly, and it happened immediately after that. And in my concerns right now, the only tarmac road in northern Kenya, Garissa Madogashe, is swept out. From 4 bridges have been swept out. And
your constituency is in Garissa town? Garissa
constituency.
Ladera constituency.
That's the only road, tarmac road, between Garissa and Madogashe. And 3 bridges have been washed out. And there's no communication now. People are not moving. Vehicles are stranded. People are stranded. 5 villages has been marooned by flood. Some of them have been swept away. So it's a disaster. So I think what he needs us today is the emergency in hand right now. What is he doing about it?
Disaster response.
Disaster response, yes. And up to now, nothing has been done by the government. I think they are trying to look at the problem with the road. This road was built in 2019 with 8 billion shillings. The first rain, that in April, it washed the entire bridge. They did a little bit of emergency work, nothing happened. Again, these rains, 4 bridges have been washed out. Now the area has been cut off completely. You can only access through helicopters. So I think that's an emergency issue, and I need the president to talk about it. All right. And what he can do for his people. Okay. Those are his people, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Mheshimiwa for Ladera speaking to us again. Those are the expectations of the members of parliament, and a wide range, the high cost of living, the high cost of fuel, what Kenyans are grappling with right now, the floods, because almost the entire of northeastern has been marooned by the floods. And these are some of the concerns of the members of parliament as the president comes to parliament for the State of the Nation address. Right about now, I want to hand it back to you, to hand you back to studio. We'll be back later, of course, as we continue to engage legislators on the various issues they expect the president to deal with this afternoon. Back to you, studio.
Well, thank you so much. That is my... Thank you so much. That is my colleague, Curia, just on the other side of holding his interviews with the members of Parliament who are just trickling in to the August House. Right now, joining me is none other than Molo Member of Parliament, that is Kimani Kuria, who is also the chair of the Finance Committee, which plays an integral part. We do know that the supplementary budget, I'm sure he has peeked into it. Let's get to hear from the legislator what alleviations that they have been able to do for Kenyans who are watching us right now. Mheshimiwa, you play a critical part, especially in the Finance Committee. Right now, I do understand that you have already in possession the supplementary budget. Could Kenyans expect any positive things out of the supplementary budget that is before you?
Thank you very much. Of course, we're really looking forward to the State of the Nation address, and we hope that the Executive of the President will outline the progress of the Kenya Kwanza administration for the past 1 year and highlight the issues that are of concern to our public. But directly to a question on the issue of supplementary budget one, we missed our revenue targets for first quarter by around 79 billion, which essentially means that If you're not collecting, then we shouldn't be spending. So this particular supplementary budget is an adjustment to the reality that now we need to adjust our budgets down so that we reduce our fiscal deficit, so that we do not end up with too many deaths that we cannot, that we're not able to sustain. In addition, is to realign priority areas like for example, there has been a lot of focus on agriculture. The subsidized fertilizer have really done well. God bless us with very good rain, so expect a very good harvest. But these continuous rains causes another challenge of post-harvest losses. So we're seeing out of realignment now of allocating more resources towards post-harvest losses for dryers and for storage, so that again, once you harvest, especially our food, especially maize and other type of foods, we don't end up again it being lost to post-harvest losses and end up getting hungry again in a few months to come.
And also, Mheshimiwa, given that the cost of living has been an issue, you are with the President, a host of you MPs at State House Nairobi. We were talking about the issue of the cost of living. So what should Kenyans expect from you, especially legislators, in ensuring that at least a little bit the cost of living has been handled?
Yeah, we sympathize and empathize with the current issue. We know times are difficult. We know the cost of living has increased. Global inflation has gone up. Global prices have gone up. The increase of interest rates in the U.S. has affected our local market. Our euro bond is maturing next year, and you know that money was not spent for the purpose it was meant to be. So as a result, because it was not spent or not supposed to be spent, it essentially means that the economic benefits we should have got from that has not been felt yet in the economy. So we're hoping that the focus to manufacturing and the focus to production now will start yielding fruits. But once now we're able also to reduce this debt, we are going to reduce the crowding out of domestic borrowing, and therefore more finances will be available to circulation, and therefore velocity of money is going to increase. And essentially, when people have monies in their pockets, even if the prices go up, then they're able to pay for them. So we're really hoping that all these interventions that this administration has put in place will start bearing fruits, and we see the cost of living going down.
And also, finally, Mheshimiwa, as I let you go, given that today I know your itinerary is full, we're talking about the cost of fuel. I'm sure you even raised with the President. Should Kenyans expect legislators at least to handle that particular matter, given that in the last budget, 8 to 16% of VAT on fuel produce, and you heard what the Energy Cabinet Secretary Davis Chirchir said a while ago in terms of it could even reach 300 Kenya shillings. Are there stringent measures that legislators are putting in place so that at least the Kenyans can be alleviated to this matter?
I think I need to bring this to clarity. The increase of cost of fuel is not as a result of VAT, because if it were, then VAT increased from 8 to 16%. So what you should have seen would be an 8 percentage point increase on the price of fuel. It's not. The price of fuel has since almost doubled. So it is not the 8%. Because if it was 8%, the adjustment should have been on 8%. So I think the Cabinet Secretary should stop misleading Kenyans. That's not it. If you look at, is it about the other levies? Yes, there are quite a number of levies that are on this fuel. But what do those levies do? That is the 10%, the 22% that go to maintenance of our roads. So if you remove that, then you need to find out how to maintain our roads across the country. So which again, without that, unless we go and borrow money to go and maintain our roads, then it's a looking to other countries to expand this G2G agreement, not just with UAE but with other countries. So if we have more G2G government-to-government agreements, then we will ensure that we have enough we have enough stock of fuel in the country, and hopefully that will also go a long way to reduce the cost of fuel.
Finally, given that millions of Kenyans are watching you right now, Mheshimiwa, your expectations from the President, what do you think he will address on?
I think to give His Excellency the President credit, there is so much that this administration has done in the last 1 year, but we have not been able to communicate it well. I think most of the time the news that has hit headlines are the misses more than the hits. And now when the president has the full attention of the whole country, I'm really looking forward to him taking time to explain to Kenyans what has he done since he took over office. And I know it's much.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa. Thank you so much for giving us time. And of course, that is the finance chair. That is a Molo member of parliament, Kimani Kuria, who's just speaking about, especially on the electricity cost as well as the energy. You do know that the cabinet secretary, that is Davis Chirchir, talked about the cost of electricity in the country, which has been exacerbated by the cost of fuel in the country. He was saying that the G2G will be an alleviation to many Kenyans, especially working with countries like Saudi Arabia and other Arabian countries, which are the major reservoirs of the oil market. And of course, he even intonated that the continued clashes between Israel and Hamas could, of course, worsen the situation. But the cabinet secretary, as well as the chair of the finance committee, hopes that it will not get to that particular situation. But for now, I need to hand you over, given that this particular production is covered in all areas. And of course, we're giving you a 360-degree view of the state of the nation as the president is expected here at exactly 2:30. Let me hand you over back to Betty Kiptum.
Thank you very much, Abdiaziz Hashim there, just speaking to the Budget Committee Chairperson of the National Assembly, that is Kimani Kuria, on matters energy costs and fuel costs. And I would like to throw it back to my guests in studio. Of course, I'm with Dr. Isaac Hassan, who is a leadership and governance expert, as well as Leonard Kafafa, who is a public policy analyst. Kafafa, you have listened to the parliamentarians speaking. I mean, there is quite a lot that they also expect from the president. What are your thoughts?
Well, on electricity, or energy rather, we need to know why electricity is currently as it is, why it's priced as it is. And then we trace back again to past regimes where independent power producers were allowed to come into this country to supply power to make up for the shortfall that was there then, but at very expensive rates. And they had long-term, irrevocable contracts that are still holding to debt. You can't break those contracts, can't get out of them. We have other power sources that are significantly cheaper, but we are locked to these independent power producers. Nothing can be done about it. Then, of course, there's also that populist bit by the last administration where the then president ordered a reduction of power by, I think, is it 30%? And we analysts wondered where the shaving was going to come from, because it was definitely not going to come from the independent power producers. So if you look at the losses that the power utility companies in this country, the national ones, have undergone, you can trace them back to that period. So power for the long term, for the short to medium term, will not come down. And it's beyond the control of this current administration. Nothing can be done about it because of the contracts that have been locked in. Then I want to come to fuel. Again, that's another thorny issue because, yes, our colleague before she left mentioned the fact that our neighbor, Tanzania, seems to have reduced their cost of fuel, whereas ours has been maintained at relatively the same level. Well, that's not 100% accurate. Truth of the matter is we have different cycles in terms of pricing. From Tanzania, we have EPRA, the national body mandated with pricing petrol, and it operates, I think, in 60-day cycles. So it gives a price guidelines that hold, say, for between 30 to 60 days, and then it reviews thereafter. So EPRA is meant to make a pronouncement, I think, on the 14th or is it the 15th of this month? 14th. So we will know then, and I'm almost 100% sure that our power prices are going to come down to match the reduction that Tanzania has done on their side. So it's not 100% accurate to say that Tanzania are reducing their fuel prices while we are holding ours constant. But then let me speak again to petroleum and why the president will not reintroduce subsidies. Okay. What we have in place of subsidies is what you call a stabilization fund, and it is charged per litre of fuel sold. Currently, it is 5 shillings and 40 cents per liter of fuel sold. And it's a component of the pump price, among other taxes. So the essence of that petroleum stabilization fund is twofold: to stabilize the price of fuel when it goes up, and to develop petroleum facilities, petroleum industry facilities. You have KBC and the refinery and that sort of thing. So any facilities that need to be developed, funding is drawn from that stabilization fund. So unfortunately, over the years, that stabilization fund has been abused. It was set up as by an act of parliament in 1991, and it has endured with amendments to that act, small amendments to that act, but it has not been used for the purposes for which it was created. Auditor General, in his report, has mentioned the fact that it has been abused. It has been altered to pay, it has been diverted to pay for the SGR at some point, and in other instances, that fund has found its way into private pockets. That fund, properly used, should stabilize the prices of fuel, not subsidies. Why not subsidies? Because subsidies mean you have to draw the fund for the subsidy from other taxes. We cannot afford to tax Kenyans a single cent more than we are already taxing. So no subsidies, there will be no subsidies. The Petroleum Stabilization Fund will be allowed to operate, and that is what I foresee the president saying. There will be no subsidies when it comes to petroleum.
Right, you don't foresee any subsidies?
None whatsoever.
Dr. I would like to get from you, of course there have been quite some thoughts about the high prices in Kenya and across the region. Is this the case that we are paying very high prices compared to other countries?
It is true that subsidy is not a solution. That has been said several times. Yes. But do we actually need subsidies for fuel, or there is something else we need to fix? One, when you look at the crude oil prices, in 2021, the crude oil prices was at 47.62. On an average, it was at the whole year. If you take the whole year in 2021, on an average, it was 68.17. In 2022, it went slightly high at a rate of 76.08, and then on an average across the 12 months, it went to 94.53. Come 2023, at the opening of the year, it was 80.26. But on an average, if you'd add them together, it is 78.19. What does that translate to? I see members of parliament saying that there's nothing much that can be done because the prices are controlled by the global market. Yes, we totally agree. But does according to the rates I have given out, give you a clear picture of how the global market is and how our prices are regulated? Our prices were better in 2021 or 2022 when the crude oil price was higher than 2023. So it means that something needs to be done to address the issue of fuel crisis in the country. When you compare the two other East African nations that has been mentioned by my colleague, Tanzania, Uganda, I mean, they have become considerate and reduced the amount of taxation that is added into the pricing, or rather the cost of delivering the commodity into the country. Therefore, it means that we have significant measures that we can take to reduce the price of fuel. And if you talk about subsidy is again picking money from the exchequer and paying or recovering for this. Are we recovering for the tax, or we are recovering for the cost of purchasing the commodity? So if we must recover for that, I don't know how my colleague will going to put it. If already the cost is because of taxation, then let's use that subsidy for something else and drop to cover for the loss of the tax, and then we reduce the tax of the commodity. That way we are able to have impact in terms of all other commodities that are subject to fuel prices. If that is not the case, then I think soon we will going to move to Tanzania or Uganda. I mean, if you can't live in a country, we are allowed to live anywhere in East Africa.
Right.
And if you think you are able to live and make ends meet in neighboring country, you'll always go. I see quite often people talk about youth being secured for employment in other countries. Do you know the implication of that? The youth, that particular person might be helping himself. Is he of value to the country? Because if you have sent your workforce to another country and they are subjected to pay tax in that country and they are not paying to you, what value have you added in terms of creating the job for an individual? But have you added anything into the country's overall development? So there are a lot of things that people don't boost on. What people do is you call for the investors to come into the country, create job employment within the country, both the youths who have been employed as well as the government benefits by getting tax, and of course the youth getting their livelihood, getting their salaries and making ends meet for their future. So I think our priority shouldn't be, this is not a hub basically in Kenya. It's not a hub where we produce workforce and we export it.
Yeah.
That's not the mandate of the nation. The mandate of the nation is to have significant workforce within the country and be productive within your country in order for us to develop this nation.
Okay.
If we shift away from it, then definitely diasporas don't develop your country. They may make some remittance for their relatives who are here, but for how long that goes on, when we are being challenged by the current modern society where the nuclear family supersedes our normal social lifestyle that we used to have. Recently we were talking about the elderly in the newspapers. There were issues related to the elderly being neglected in Africa now. Before it was a responsibility of their children to take care of them when their parents age.
Okay.
But now they are pushing it into home cares. Means things are changing, and this is a Western phenomenon that has been going on for all those years, that you are aged, you are taken to home cares.
All right. I'll get your thoughts on that in just a second. Of course, the message is to increase local production to ensure that more of our workforce is retained in Kenya and builds the Kenyan economy. Now, we want to take you to Parliament. Regina Manyara is on standby to speak to a parliamentarian from Meru County. Regina, take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Kiptum. We are at Parliament Buildings and we are picking up reactions ahead of the State of the Nation address by President William Ruto later in the afternoon. At a time, Kenyans especially are calling for concrete measures to tackle the high cost of living that is seemingly running away, or rather it's going rogue. Then this morning, just a few minutes to noon, we are joined by none other than nominated Member of Parliament, Madam Dorothy here to just give us your view. We're expecting the President later in the afternoon in regard, to give his first State of the Nation address. What are your expectations? Second, actually, what are your expectations as a leader?
Thank you so much, Regina. It's a very beautiful morning. I'm looking forward to the President addressing issues that are pressing on the citizens of this nation. First and foremost, I expect the President to address the issue of the cost of living. I know too well he has done his best, because 1 year down the line, the President has tried as much as possible to live to the platform on which he was elected. This government came to place, that the bottom-up economic transformational agenda, and the issue of the cost of living has been a very thorny issue, and I'm sure the President will address it adequately. We know too well that the cost of living is informed by very many other issues, and one, it is a global phenomena, and I'm sure the President, having this matter from the time you entered office, he has it, and today we are looking forward to a very good way forward on the cost of living.
Now, Madam Mheshimiwa, there's been a section of leaders who have implored, the president to actually tame the high cost of fuel. From where you sit, and it's within the purview of the members of parliament, especially when it comes to, the levies and the taxation model when it comes to the cost of fuel. What is your take on this?
I'm sure, Regina, the president is on that. This is a matter that is very dear to his heart, and I'm sure he's doing everything within his powers to ensure that the cost of fuel does not escalate further, because fuel dictates every other aspect of production, even in our factories. So I'm very certain this is something that the president will address today, informed on also the other global arising global emergencies, like the war that is already in Israel and Palestine. These are things that affect us also as a country, but I'm sure the president will be able to address this matter adequately.
Now, Mheshimiwa, before I let you go, we all saw what happened yesterday at the Senate. Yes, and also I can hear you also want to talk about matters of education. What are your expectations?
Yes, my expectations is that the president will be able to give a way forward on the funding of the JSS. This JSS has been a very thorny issue because it is something that came into being, and I think the previous government did not put adequate plans in what was ahead when this competence-based curriculum came into force. But the president is now piecing up everything. And I'm expecting that the president will be able to give a clear way funding on how the JSS infrastructure will be in place. Now that he is very passionate about education, already the president in the previous 1 year, he has been able to address and employ 56,000 teachers, something that has never happened in the history of this country. And this time, even in the supplementary budget, I can see Teacher Service Commission has been given quite an amount of money that will be able to address even the issues of teacher staffing. So as the teacher staffing issue is being sorted out, I'm sure even the president, I expect you address the infrastructure issue so that the JSS students will feel now they are no longer in the lower primary classes, they are now in another model where they are in junior secondary school.
Now, you happen also to sit in the Committee of Water and would want to know what is your take, especially now that we are expecting, heavy downpour. There's been a question of have we done enough to ensure that we, to store this water for times that we've looked at what is happening when it comes to matters of climate change. What is your take on that? Looking at, the budgetary allocation and such, is it sufficient to support that?
Regina, I want to state that every time the government allocates money, it allocates money with specific targets. And one of the targets in this year's budget is water harvesting and storage of water, because this is very crucial and critical. Remember, one of the fundamental pillars of every country is agriculture. And agriculture, because food security will be guaranteed if we invest in our agriculture sector. And the president, in his administration, he has been able to address the part of fertilizer. Fertilizer now is very cheap, and it is our responsibility as the other stakeholders, including the county government, including us in the Water and Irrigation Committee, to support the president so that we can be able to support him in this agenda. The food security agenda is a very, very important and critical agenda of our country. So we are doing that, and I'm sure the budget allocation will be skewed to cater for this. The president of this republic is very passionate about water. He has introduced a model of PPE, the public-private partnership, and I'm very certain that we should be able to address this matter gradually. But all that said, I want to say also the heavy downpour, yes, I'm sure the counties have made very elaborate plans so that they can be able to put in mitigation measures so that we don't lose life. Otherwise, We welcomed the lanes because they are long overdue, but we want to caution people and caution the citizens of this country. Please, the warning is there. It's a heavy downpour. Take care. Don't cross where you are possible to drown, because the caution has been given. Yes.
Now, before I let you go, being a nominated member of Parliament, Meru County, and the developments that we saw yesterday in the Senate the Senate actually saved Kawira Mwangaza, Governor, Meru County, from impeachment. What is your take going forward, especially your expectations, being that you're a woman and a leader in Meru County?
You know, every time when two warring parties are together and they seek arbitration, they always don't go there so that they all win. It cannot be possible. And I'm so happy that the Senate, in its own wisdom, and this is what I asked the Senate myself, that let the Senate look at all the documents with a lot of impartiality so that they don't take sides. And me, I want to say our Senate is very competent. And I want also to say the MCAs who brought this matter, they brought the matter to the Senate so that they can be listened to. The Senate has listened, the Senate has given its verdict, and we want to ask the Governor Kawira Mwangaza, congratulations, because the Senate has verdicted you. Go work for the Meru people. We, the leaders, as we have always indicated, we are more than willing to join together and work for the Meru people. It is not personal, it's not about an individual, it's not about anything. It is about working for the Meru people. So I welcome Governor Kawira Mwangaza to seek other leaders, and we forge one way forward for the Meru community, because 1 week lost in war is 100 or 1,000 days lost in development. So we are all looking forward to development. Kawira, go and work for the Meru people. The MCAs, join the governor. Let us now open up a new leaf, a leaf of respect, a leaf of proper governance, so that we deliver to the people who have put us in these very, very prestigious offices.
Thank you very much. That is nominated Member of Parliament, Meru County, Madam Honorable Dorothy there, just giving us her take in regard to her expectations ahead of the State of the Nation address that is going to be made here by President William Ruto at around 2:30. Now, from Meru County, we would want to introduce Kisumu, speaking to Member of Parliament Shabir, yes. Thank you very much, ma'am, to give us his view. Good afternoon. Is it afternoon? Yes, it's afternoon. Good afternoon. What are your expectations ahead of the State of the Nation address that is going to be made by the President this afternoon?
Well, I don't know what he's going to say, but the situation, I hope that he has realized and been able to gauge the temperature of this country. We are in the doldrums. We are actually going down. The announcement of the 300 shillings per litre of petrol, the punitive taxation, and the more or less reckless behavior of KRA in approaching certain people has brought a lot of businesses down. This morning, two of my tenants who were just hustling, they have closed shop, because the taxation people have been on their back. But more important, it's what we call the pending bills. Pending bills have not been paid, and they've been clearly told, you are in the other group, you're not in our group. So I don't think of groups is not right. Mm-hmm. I think the president needs to be told the truth. I'm an independent member of parliament. And actually, I'm the only independent member of parliament, although 12 were elected. Out of the 12 elected, 10 went to the Kenya Kwanza Alliance and 1 went to the Azimio Alliance. I stand proud to be the only one in none of them. So I have a good fortune of the president has time for me, and I do not attack him unnecessarily, but I want to give him the advice that others will not tell him. If the king if he's naked, he has to be told. And I think right now, the way things are going, you can say that give president this and that president that. Gone are those days that the president was the first farmer, the first this, the first that, the first god.
Yes, but now. In your, especially when you talked about, the taxation model, and this is a new regime, the president got onto, when he started off in his tenure, he said that we're working to have a national tax policy that is going to be in place in the next 3 years. We're yet to see that. Then also within Parliament, within your purview, when it comes to the fuel levies and taxes, it's within your purview as legislators to actually work onto something when it comes to the formula that is applied.
No, it isn't, and that's where the mistake is. Because once happened, there's that consortium who decides on what the price is, led by the Minister of Energy, Churchill, and they're working on what is called the physical, the actual figures of how much it is to import, etc., etc. At the moment in time, there was a time that 50% of the cost of our fuel was taxes. Now it's nearly 70%. Now the situation is that as we were told that we were going to have a government-to-government arrangement with Saudi Arabia, that hasn't come to pass. Some of the ministers have misled the president. President now is going to back to Saudi Arabia, trying to arrange what is happening. The point of the
government has been working, because if we look at the fuel commodity that we got, the product that we got, has been on that particular model.
It isn't, the government.
Maybe say that it has not met the target that government was looking at.
Blunt about it. You are KBC, and you must be frank. It was told that we are getting credit. We were told that we were going to pay in Kenya shillings, not dollars. What happened? It is not the case. It is paying in dollars, and we're not getting the credit that we were assured for 24 months. So let's be blunt about it. I mean, your job, it depends on saying the right thing, but you've also got to admit where things have not gone right. And I think that the president at this moment in time needs to be told that some of these things are not right. Is he being forced by IMF? I don't know. But remember in February, just February, not long ago, he said there will be no new taxes, no higher taxes. And matter of fact, taxes will come down. He said that, of course, was it populist? Or was it something based upon the information he had, and the information he was given was wrong? So let's give the president due consideration.
Have you ever wondered how these roads are built? How they are kept safe and efficient for everyone to use? Uncover the story behind Kenya's road infrastructure and the impact of the Fuel Levy Fund. Watch the Kenya Roads Board Fuel Levy Fund documentary this Thursday, the 9th of November at 6:45 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 to learn more about efficient road network for a prosperous Kenya. Kenya Roads Board, your fuel levy at work.
Nani alikuuzia hiyo chakula? Wewe. Evidence iko hapo, imefaa koti ama na t-shirt ndani ama inakuanga na mnakani.
Marabu si nile ndege anatembe hivi. Nani ajui?
Wewe ulikula hiyo mwarabu?
Ati?
Yeye alikula hiyo mwarabu.
Mwarabu gani? Amesema marabu ile ndege kubwa ile.
Why did you take that stool? That guy do not to sit down. Why?
Wewe unaelewa stuli hiyo amesema ya daktari ni gani? Hakumaanisha hiyo. Why are you asking that question?
Excuse me. Ni wewe umeuliza wewe. Si mimi pana uliza huyu. Anatupikia undertaker.
Undertaker ni ule wa.
Inaitwa marabu stock.
Kipara yako.
Acha bwana. Wewe kipara yako. Wewe bibi yangu ni
In a world filled with uncertainty, there is one thing we can always count on: the power of compassion and generosity. Every day, families in Kenya face unimaginable challenges and hardships. They struggle to put food on the table, provide shelter for their loved ones, and access basic health care. But today, you have the power to make a difference. By just contributing 1 shilling and 50 cents from your airtime, your generosity can provide access to sanitary pads, nutritious food, clean water, education, and life-saving medical care to those who need it most. To support this cause, please tune in to your favorite radio station under the KBC umbrella for step-by-step instructions on how to subscribe. KBC Helping Hands. Together, we can make a difference and bring hope to those in need.
What's in Your Kitchen, a show that celebrates Kenyan and African dishes. Rusha. Wait. At Pinelani Annex Naivasha, she shared a bit of her life background story and her cooking skill.
Be careful.
Yes, because I've seen some fire jump there.
That is called flambeing.
Flambeing. So tukiona moto tujue ni flambeing. Chele yetu iko sawa? Iko sawa? Tumalize.
Sasa ni kwenda tukule. Lakini hauendi.
Mimi siendi.
Hauendi.
Hiyo tutaongea kwa meza kwanza.
Sawa.
Salivate this delicious meal on your screen while taking notes for the recipe. Every Sunday, only on KBC.
Nani alikuuzia hiyo chakula? Wewe. Evidence iko hapo. Imefaa koti ama na t-shirt ndani ama inakuanga na mnakani.
Marabu si nile ndegere tibifi. Nani ajui? Wewe ulikula hiyo mwarabu?
Ati?
Yeye alikula hiyo mwarabu.
Mwarabu gani? Amesema marabu ile ndege kubwa ile.
Why did you take that stool? That guy do not to sit down. Why?
Wewe unaelewa stool hiyo amesema ya daktari ni gani? Hakumaanisha hiyo. Why are you asking that question?
Excuse me. Ni wewe maulisha wewe. Si mimi nipana ulisha huyu. Anatupikia undertaker.
Undertaker ni ule wa.
Inaitwa marabu stock.
Kipara yako.
Acha bwana. Wewe tepale. Kusa bibi yangu ni
Thank you for staying with KBC Channel 1. This is special coverage of the State of the Nation address set to happen this afternoon by President William Ruto in Parliament. Of course, the joint sitting between Senate and the National Assembly will be listening to that State of the Nation address. And we have been talking about what Kenyans expect from President William Ruto this afternoon. And one of the issues that he's going to address is the journey towards achievement of national values, integrity being a very key part of those national values. And I'd like to get a word from my experts here, Dr. Isaac Hassan, a leadership and governance expert, as well as Leonard Kafafa, who is a public policy analyst. I'd like to get your thoughts on just how far we are in terms of the journey towards achieving integrity. You know, wanton corruption in this country has been the song day in, day out. How can we get out of it? I'll start with you, Leonard.
Corruption, as you've rightly put it, has been a scourge that has afflicted practically every administration from independence, from the founding fathers, right through to Moi, to the Kibaki administration. As much as Kibaki as administration is touted as the model of excellence, there's a lot of corruption in there. And through the Uhuru administration and currently to the present administration, there's no escaping corruption. It is there, it's a reality. But the good thing is that so far we have not had any scandal that defines this administration. I'll give you an example. The Moi administration had the Golden Bag scandal. It defined that administration in terms of corruption. Kibaki's had the Anglo leasing scandal that defined that administration. Let me not talk about what defined the previous administration for now. There are 2, 3, 4 scandals that are still loading, and chances are they may be the face of that administration in the fullness of time. But so far, this administration has not had a scandal of epic proportions that can be said to define it. It's a good thing. I would also make another note that this administration did not come on the platform of fighting corruption. It was not part of the agenda. It was not part of their manifesto. And for the simple reason that it is almost practically impossible to eliminate corruption that has been festering for close to 60 years, close to 6 decades. It's practically impossible to rout it out overnight. And anyone who makes a promise to rout out corruption overnight is lying to the people. So they did not make that promise. But that said, it does not absolve them from the responsibility of fighting corruption, the responsibility of adhering to Chapter 6 of the Constitution when it comes to the appointment of public officers. It does not absolve them from cracking the whip on people living within the president's inner circles who have been fingered in some aspects of corruption. Granted, there has been nothing concrete as yet about some of those people mentioned, but we have seen tweets and messages on social media from the president's closest friends and confidants, from the president's alter egos, people like David Ndii, giving you instances of where somebody has padded up figures when it comes to the supply of things to government, and where the president has been alerted to the same. Of course, the president has put a stop to those shenanigans, but he is yet to crack the whip or to come down hard on some of those people.
Okay.
But I'll also say this about the president. I mean, he's taken a firm and resolute step in cracking down on corruption at KEMSA. Yep. We also, what he did, he fired, I think, an entire management team and set about a new team. He fired the entire board and management team and brought in new people to clean up the rot in KEMSA. That was very encouraging. Then he did not take the populist move of interfering with the judiciary or with an order of the judiciary in the recent evictions at Mavoko. We saw him stand aside. We saw him say, allow the law to take its due course when there was a court order that evicted squatters. The populist thing would have been to go the way the last administration did, to find money to pay the owners of the land and to give that money to squatters. That is populist. That's a recipe for anarchy when it comes to land in this country. The president took a resolute stand to let the law take its course. People were evicted and other court orders are coming up. I think the judiciary is emboldened and is now making determinations to uphold the rule of law, that uphold the rule of law. It's a good thing. It's a positive step,
right,
I would say.
Dr. Isaac, your thoughts on that?
Corruption in this country is a white elephant. I would like to narrate to you a story.
Keep it short.
Of a nation.
Please.
I'll keep it short. Okay. There is a story of a nation where the people who are living there were feeding one giant crocodile every day with one goat. And they got tired. When they got tired, they killed the crocodile. When they killed the crocodile, the main one, then they found 12 other crocodiles, 12 mouths to feed every day for them to fetch that water for their consumption. When our noble Constitution 2010 came up, we only had corruption at the national level, the national government, which we used to call it. But when we developed county governments, corruption became fourfold. We have created 47 corruption centers in the country. Recently, as he mentioned, the president, in his early stages of assuming the office, they were flagging off of international community. Global Fund flagged some irregularities in KEMSA. He took action. These are situations where external people have flagged that because of their money, they feel very bad. But look at every year what we go through. Our Auditor General, who has been tasked to monitor and of course identify people who have not used resources for this country the way it was intended for, flags billions of shillings every year and brings it out and publishes it. Did the government take any action on that? We don't see the government proactively utilizing the institutions that were mandated to carry out auditing. The outcome of audit is always to be addressed. If you don't address, and we have pending audit queries for the last 10 years or 11 years, then we have a crisis. Then we have EACC, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, are very happy to run after a police officer who takes 50 shillings from a motorist on the road, a traffic police officer. But when I steal billions of shillings, I become a king. Nobody cares about me. Nobody bothers that I have stolen money. So I think in previous administrations, they were linked. They are linked that each of them had a scandal. We know the immediate one, as he said, we have not yet enlisted many. It has not come out open, but it will going to come, and it's already there. But I think what I will have wished the president today to discuss is that the way he started family with KEMSA the other time, I think he should also respect the outcome of the audits that we pay for. Kenyans pay for those audits, for the auditor, the Office of the Auditor General to carry out annually those audits. Okay. And if they do those audits and they don't see any action taken on the outcome of the audit, then I don't see the essence of doing any audit. Similarly, you will find the budget controller saying that we cannot allocate for resources that has been moved from the government coffer or the exchequer's money. So I think what we expect from the president today is for him to come firmly and instruct those institutions that are mandated to carry out those tasks to make sure that they have closed files for the Auditor General, so that we know those who are capable of stealing state resources are brought to books and taken to court, and those who are clean, they are cleared out of it. I have not seen a clear case of corruption within the setup that has been taken to court and proved the guiltiness of that particular person who has been accused. I know there will be a lot of corruption cases which will come up when we are getting closer to 2027 election. This is the time when political scores are being gained, the momentum for underscoring others for not fighting with you on in the race. But I think it is the right time the president comes out and say, this is what we agreed. This is the kind of steps we agreed that we will take. The law says like this. The way he has stepped aside on the issue of the land issue in Mavoko, I think he should come out again very clearly that those institutions that are mandated to carry out their responsibilities in regards to issues of financial malpractices and, of course, corruption, actions must be taken. If they are not able to do that work, we don't need to pay them, continuously paying them. Let him dismantle them like the way he has dismantled KEMSA, and then we have a new blood that will going to be responsible to deliver what Kenyans expect them to do so and what they are paying for.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I will take those as your final remarks, gentlemen. We are out of time. Thank you very much for speaking with us. That's Dr. Isaac Hassan. Dr. Isaac Hassan is a leadership and governance expert, as well as Leonard Kafafa, who is a public policy analyst. We've been talking about the expectations of Kenyans ahead of the State of the Nation addressed by President Dr. William Ruto this afternoon in Parliament, addressing both the Senate and the National Assembly. This coverage continues in Swahili. My colleague Timothy Kipnusu will be taking over. My name is Betty Kiptum. Do have yourself a lovely day. Bye-bye.
Patel. It's Sanjay. Why does everyone think our names are Patel? My name is Sanjay, period. Sanjay.
I want to marry 3 wives at the same day. They both say at the same time, I do.
Wanaume wacheni umpeya. Just speak it out so that every one of us can get it a joke.
You won't understand it, even if we drew it for you.
Mayo, guys, are we about to witness a case of domestic violence? Man down, we have to save Kinanzi, we have to save our homeland. Wait. Listen, girlfriends.
Of course you didn't expect to find me here.
I'm tired of everyone judging me, saying that I betrayed the company.
At least I'm not the one who opened the door for the snake here.
You're just not caught.
What is this man doing here?
This family has no idea that you are about to betray them.
What do you want?
I'm going to give you Uganda.
I see trans in the family.
Money is an issue here.
So this is personal.
Now we are on the same page.
Did your father send you here?
I answer to no one.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm coming after you with all that I have.
You've always been a scam.
Don't call me that.
You will never succeed doing anything in this world without me, Alice.
How do you manage to know every step I take?
Dance for me, oh. I've never seen anybody do the things you do before.
Hi, my name is Baraka Meru. I'm 11 years of age. My talent is acting and I'm a commercial model. I'll advise us to come together, plant as many trees as possible, go green with Baraka.
I'm going to teach you how to make a balloon fish.
Maneno ya heshima, vinywani tuyajaze. Tafadhali na asante, kamwe asitutoke. You are destroying this nation, and we are here to tell you how. You cook food for us, and even wash our plates after we eat. Overall's main important, democracy. If you want a great world, this monarchy.
Childhood mortality, or in simple terms, childhood deaths, is an indicator of a society's or a nation's well-being and socio-economic status.
From this report again, we see that there is high male-female mortality compared to female. Under 5 mortality is at par in both rural and urban. It's at 41 deaths per 1,000 life births.
But what are some of the interventions that are being put, and what would you advise?
Delivery at a health facility will improve the chances of the mother and the child survive.
Why would you do something like that? Come on, that cat is my pet. You threw my cat out.
I never expected my mom to say that to us. I also thought she was being unfair. My mom doesn't get to dictate if or when I marry you. You know that.
Have you forgotten where we are right now? You can't hold my hand.
I'm not allowed to hold my girlfriend's hand?
Hey,
I'm going up the escalator now.
I suggest you go see a doctor and leave me alone.
I'm insane because I miss you too much. Chuyen, I was wrong.
I'm joined by fantastic individuals who, in their own one way or another, are making an impact on the lives of those who are affected with breast cancer. So what the Cancer Cafe does is just bring people together over a cup of tea. We discuss this difficult condition called cancer. And the whole idea is to put it in an environment that is positive energy.
Our initiatives are around, first of all, building a thriving community for female bikers. We also have the initiatives around breast cancer, which is called Bikers for Boobies. That's our initiative, which we've been running for 4 years now.
So initially it was all about doing a ride, getting together a group of ladies in different categories, getting somebody to come and talk to us about cancer, what it is, how to screen, when to screen. It's not about being out there because a man can do it. It's just because it gives us the freedom to just be. What?